This is on.
Great. Okay. This is the regular meeting of the Town of Washington Planning Board. We have a quorum present. So we'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can go this way. So first, I just want to ask the members to see the minutes of. Yes.
Yes.
And were there any changes, corrections? So can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded? Second. Anna, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from that vote since I was not there.
Why was it?
I don't know if they were active or not because it wasn't. I mean, I shouldn't approve
Okay.
it because.
Okay. So tonight we have 2 new applications that are on for workshops, and we have 3 what we call pre-applications, which that means that the person hasn't submitted any full application. They want to come and ask a few questions and find out the process and get a fuller understanding of what it is we do here. I just wanted to say, particularly for the many people that appear to be joining us on Zoom, we don't have any public hearings tonight. Everything we have on is a workshop or a pre-application discussion. And so what that means is there's no opportunity for public comment. We would love to hear people's thoughts on any application when there is a public hearing, but tonight is just not that opportunity. But happy to have you here listening and learning about what's going on. But I don't want you to feel that we're just ignoring you if you have something to say. That time will come. So the first application that we have is a wetlands application for Ibanez, 211 Hammond Hill. This is an application to construct a 1.5-story accessory building and deck on a 134.8 acre lot in an RR10 zoning district. The proposed structure would be attached to an existing pool terrace and have an outdoor kitchen. The subject property is currently improved with a 4,674 square foot single family home, a pool, a detached garage, a barn, and other accessory structures. The proposed structure would encroach on the 100-foot wetland buffer by 43 feet, and therefore it requires a wetland permit. I can ask the applicant's representative to come forward and state your name for the record and go from there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Troy Curry. I'm here representing applicants. So what we are trying to do here, is it easier if I stand back?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So this is the current site, one of, I believe, 4 sites that the owner currently has in this vicinity. The current wetlands boundary is indicated by this red line. It was demarcated by a professional wetlands surveyor. The building that we were doing, this is the current 100-foot buffer. The application also indicated that potentially looking into the 200 feet beyond the wetland zone, which is indicated by this line. As you see, this is the existing pool, terrace, and kitchen, outdoor kitchen, that we're trying to just basically go in tandem with.
So just if you don't mind, repeat, show me the 100-foot buffer line.
This is the 100-foot buffer line. This is the actual wetlands zone here. This is the 200-foot line.
Okay, thank you.
Can you, whenever I see something that's going right into the buffer, I ask why. So
Yes.
can you explain to us why we're not going to the right there?
So
Why that wouldn't be your plan?
we did explore going into here. Due to the terrain, it was going to require a lot more excavation, a lot more concrete, a lot more hard terrace surface. It was good, after looking at some proposals from contractors, the owner felt that it was just gonna halt the project and not be able to move forward to it with it. Due to
I'm
costs.
not an expert, but the lines there are closer together in the area that you're talking about building into.
Yeah,
and
but we
that-
don't have, we're building a raised deck here that's in plane with the pool terrace, as opposed to over here where we would be forced, instead of doing more just composite decking, that we would have to do more stone terrace over here just due to the grade. Here, we're hovering out over the grade of the terrace.
So you would have to excavate in the,
Correct, just to keep everything at the same, we would have to, even building up, I believe we looked at 18 inches above the pool terrace, we were still gonna have to excavate and do slabs and terrace surfaces.
So you're talking about if you went into the area that I'm describing, you'd have to dig it out
Correct.
and then you would, in
Correct.
order to get a flat area, in order to have a deck.
There will be a lot more surface drainage runoff due to that scenario. So we felt that this actually left more of the existing grade intact because we were just putting sonotubes and piers to support the structure. The gym itself will be on the traditional foundation.
So then what's on the sonotubes and what's
The
on-
deck itself. So this allows the natural drainage to come down beneath the deck and go back to the way it normally would.
so the dark outline is a permanent foundation? The dark,
In the red here.
yeah, and the,
Well, this dark outline here is the building
right,
envelope, which here, a little more closely. So this
Yeah,
whole
would
part
it
here.
help you to use the easel? We could-
Sure.
There's
I
an
didn't
easel
know.
behind there. I didn't realize it wasn't there.
I just saw
Nice to
it.
meet
Thank you, appreciate it. So this is the building footprint for the main foundation, and then this whole area here coming around will be the deck surface.
and the deck's on piers.
The deck will be on piers, yes. There is one small area. Yeah, I put it up here. So. There will be an area of a concrete foundation under the spa just to support it because the deck surface itself is incapable of holding the loads required for that.
Does that require excavation?
Minimal.
Can you show us that, where that is?
I don't have the foundation plan here, but it will be underneath this part of the deck right here. So it's roughly a 8.5 by 8.5 or 8.5 by 10'6" area.
And that's in the buffer itself.
Yes.
And the part that there is a foundation, how deep do you see the footing going on that foundation?
You're looking at, we're going in 48 inches, like, just for code.
Frost.
Yes, for the frost line. This is the area for the hot tub.
And that is the new building.
Correct. Let's see from the front surface.
And there's no other location on the property you could put this facility that's outside the buffer?
Not within any type of, into the existing pool, which is where the owner wants to have the hot tub and a cold plunge tub. So they want to have that whole area. This is also going to be
But the
a
hot,
gym.
but the hot tub and the cold plunge, I think, are not the ones that are really encroaching into the buffer. It's the building that's really encroaching.
No,
into the
they
buffer,
are.
Correct?
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can look at the buffer one again.
Yeah, I
So
see
the
it.
buffer is here. It is, this is the buffer line right here. The
Oh,
hot tub and
okay,
everything's right
yes.
there.
I see.
So the gray underneath the red is the existing. That's the
Yes.
existing.
Yeah.
That part.
Pool already is partially in the buffer.
Correct.
Show me the pool on the plan.
The pool is this area right here.
Oh, there, that's the
So
pool.
it's the pool decking that
Yeah.
currently encroaches a tiny bit.
Correct.
And behind the pool, directly behind the pool is not an option because
That's
why?
the
To the
area
right.
that we looked
That
into we need a lot more excavation. We need a lot more concrete surfaces for slabs for, stone terraces too.
And is it anything going back in that direction? I mean, could you not move it back, the proposed plan back slightly so that it was farther outside of the buffer zone?
We could potentially move it back a little bit, but the whole idea was to continue to engage it with the pool area as it is.
I guess what I'm asking, if you went behind the proposed plan, does that pose the same a slope problem than it does behind the pool.
To a certain extent, yes, because we would need to engage it with stone terraces as opposed to composite decking that can be lifted above the grade. So the further we go into the existing grade, the more we'll have to disturb it.
Well, what about the area? There's a dotted line there. I don't know what that marks. Further down, keep going.
This?
That, what is that?
That is where I'm showing that we would connect into the existing drainage for roof drainage.
What about having everything you're talking about just below that? There's a flat area of land there. It shows that that's not a big steep drop off there. That's out of the buffer. It's
We-
adjacent to the pool.
We could propose it to the client. It's not something that they have shown much interest in.
I think for our purposes, for a wetlands application, you need to show us that we're really why this has to be done in this area, why there's really no good other alternative within reason. And if there is something else within reason, I think that needs to be looked at.
I think a lot of it had to do with the views because they do have a porch surface off of here. So trying to bring this off into this area, going to disturb a lot of their views from their home out to the pond that's are currently there. That's because it was putting it off into the distance where it's still engaged with the original intent of being engaged with the pool area, but it doesn't interrupt the functioning of what they've already done with their home. Because this is a new addition that they did about 5 or 6 years ago we did for them, where there's a covered porch and terrace there that they have a full view of the pond.
What if you rotated that building to stay outside the buffer,
We could
rather than
potentially
align
rotate
it the way it is, rotated it counterclockwise,
We could rotate it, it would decrease the amount of incursion.
rotate it and move it a little so it's out.
I think, again, and it's certainly, there's potential there, we could explore it. But I think again, this is largely client-driven and how they wanted to use their building.
What do you think about the impact of the wetlands for this
I
plan?
think it's going to be very minimal. And we're going to silt fence off, obviously, during the construction, so there won't be much there. All of the surface drainage runoff is going to be collected and incorporated into the existing system. So I don't see there's going to be much there at all.
What do you think?
Potential off the existing pool deck, really. That's going to be the biggest thing, what's already there. I don't think we're going to be adding any more to it because we're going to be collecting most of that runoff.
So the person that you engaged to do the survey, the wetland survey in the buffer zone,
Yes.
did they recommend any kind of plantings or anything to help mitigate the runoff?
No, he also felt that the impact was going to be extremely minimal.
At some point, that may be required that you testify or you bring a letter from him stating that.
Okay.
But at this point, I'm still trying to see if there's an alternative siting.
I did forward it this afternoon. I don't know. if
I
you
did
saw
not
it.
receive, my boss is actually, he was called away to Michigan.
Oh, sorry.
So he's been on the road all day. So anything that's gone to him has not reached me yet today.
Okay.
I did receive the letter from town engineer and we did go to,
You mean for AKRF?
yes.
That's,
Oh, that's you. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have engineers on staff, and I'm a planner, consulting planner to the board, so.
Okay.
um,
We did try
it's fine.
to address all of the things that you pointed out and that I have the additional paperwork that was recommended.
I think what you're hearing tonight, though, is the board is looking for a little more alternative arrangement if possible.
Okay.
Maybe bring that back to your client and discuss that this is what the board is asking for. And
Sure.
even a lot of our, when we have wetland applications, a lot of our review is deferred over to Steve Marino, who did go out and actually visit the site and
Okay.
looked at the conditions, and wrote his own comments up. And he also was asking for justification for why it has to be in the spot. So I think between that and what you've heard tonight from the board,
Sure.
it's probably worth re-examining that.
Understood.
The rest of the comments, I don't know, do you want me to start?
Yes,
Going through
please.
some of that. Yeah, so we're familiar, again, and I think Steve
You
is
can have a
also
seat if you like.
AKRF and the town's
Or
what,
do you want me to take this down so everybody can see what's going on?
that works. Whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, we acknowledge that we,
May I ask that people speak a little louder? I won't say I'm deaf, but I am 85. And I hear a lot of mumbling and I don't know if anybody else is having trouble.
We'll try.
Oh,
We'll
thank you.
try.
Thank
Okay.
you. Good points.
so, the first couple of comments, sounds like you have the paperwork issues, right? We have,
Yes.
the agricultural data statements required. We didn't see that. The zoning district was labeled incorrectly on the application.
There's actually an error on the town map that I noticed today when I was trying to figure out how I could have made that error.
There has been an error on the town map for years.
Okay.
I didn't realize.
The
this was
color
that
in the
one.
legend is off, is
They're off on
reversed.
those two zones.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Easily
correct.
fixed though. As far as the delineation, like, our firm and Steve Marino is familiar with Mike Nowicki of Ecological Solutions. We know that he's qualified to do that delineation. And the materials he submitted with the application about the soils and the vegetation were acceptable as far as completeness for the application. But as the board member mentioned, having another statement about impact from him would be useful because he's the professional and the ecologist out there.
Okay.
Let's see. Adding the area of disturbance to the site plan, which is, I guess, 0.06 acres according to the EAF that you submitted. We talked about the site. It was prohibitively expensive, but I guess the board would like to see a little more on that. The dimensions footprint of the new construction wasn't indicated. I guess that could be added to the plan.
Right now, I have extra copies I can give tonight.
Okay. And as far as the use for the structure, it's really not meant to be like an accessory dwelling. It's more or
No,
less just an
absolutely.
accessory recreational
Yes.
use for the applicant.
The floor plans?
Sure. Yeah, we had it up before, but
So it's basically just a gym, workout room, various exercise equipment. It'll be a small kitchenette. I mean, no cooking surfaces or anything like that.
Okay.
This whole area is all bathroom, and then a changing room for the pool, sauna and hot tub, sauna and a steam room.
Okay.
And then the whole underneath is just dedicated for mechanical spaces.
and the septic is
It's gonna be tied
supporting
into existing.
the bathroom?
Yeah.
And the Department of Health has been consulted with yet about this,
They
or?
have not.
Okay.
We were not, since we weren't adding any new bedrooms.
Right. Technically, you're not required to go to them, but for a bathroom, is there information about the septic sizing that,
I would have
You
to
can
speak to
provide
their
the
current
board?
contractor
Okay,
to see
just to
what's-
give us some comfort on that?
Sure.
Kitchenette.
It's just for storing cold drinks, stuff like that, from when they're doing workouts for waters, a blender maybe to mix smoothies, that sort of thing.
So I'm just proposing, throwing this out. So in the future, say this owner sells his property. And says, hey, gee, that would be a nice accessory building. That big room there, 2 bedrooms, and kitchen and bathrooms.
They would have to tear out some very, very expensive doors to be able to do, I mean.
I think to make that an accessory building, they would do that. Right, because that's another residence.
Okay.
So,
Just thinking forward, the problem there for me is that it's a kitchenette. I'm not sure how much of a problem that is for me, but once you have a kitchen and bathrooms, it's a dwelling, so.
Again, there's no
Considered-
cooking surface.
It's not considered a
well.
kitchen unless it has a stove in it.
Right, yes.
There's no stove.
There's no stove here.
No.
Good.
This,
Thanks.
Oh, I know that we've done those before.
Yeah,
There would be a
Yes.
sink and a drawer refrigerator.
Okay, so,
and if
thank you.
that was to happen in the future, they would need a special permit and go through the process
it
again.
would.
Okay, erosion and sediment controls,
I
it sounds
added
like
the
those
one.
are gonna be added. I think it's important. The wetland consultant felt the same way, just about protecting the pond and the wetland area during disturbing activities. This will require a public hearing when the board's ready to set one. It also is gonna require the referral to the county because it's a wetland permit that's not exempt from the reduction agreement that the town has with the county. And it's within 500 feet of a farm, which is within an ag district, so that triggers the county review. And also the CAC is required to have a referral because it's a wetland permit. As far as seeker, it's a type 2 action. Doesn't require EAF. And as far as recommendations, we wanted to discuss the comments, classify as type 2 if you're ready to do that. You can refer to the county if ready to do that unless you want to see alternative siting first. So the same thing goes for the CAC. And, you can discuss readiness for a hearing, which doesn't seem like we're
I don't think we're
there
there
yet. But
I would think that even, if that's all true, by the way, and you could certainly consider the referrals. I just, for the applicants, from your perspective, might be premature to do that. If you come back with alternate locations that you've heard, something they'd like you to do.
you got to do it again.
It's a new application, you have to do it again, and then the county and everybody else is coming. So that round.
So just to be clear, when we do come back with the alternates, you want a full application refilled out with all of the.
No, the
we don't-
application
Okay.
I
is
think
fine.
what
It's
he's
just
saying is that it's not worth it to
To send
to send it to the
county.
county.
Understood.
because they have to see it. They take 30 days, and then if they have to refer it again, it's another month of delay. So
They're not a new application.
yeah,
We're gonna
this
send it to the
is this is
county
more
when
or
we're
less
ready, when-
Okay.
when you have
a
plan
response to
that-
comments
Understood.
with a new, going back to your client and coming up with maybe another scheme.
I think we are ready, though, to refer at least where we are today to the CAC, because they can have a continuing
Absolutely.
discussion about it. They can start looking at it the way that you're talking about doing it now, and then continue to look at it as it moves forward. So
And we would forward any information that we receive from them or their input, as soon as we got that.
Okay.
okay, so let's just do that. Can I get a motion to refer this to the CAC?
Motion to refer to CAC.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I know we need to do that, but so that referral's done. And are we ready, because this is a type 2, which doesn't require EAF or anything further, are we ready to just have to classify this type 2? Take a motion to classify this type 2, or do we want to wait until,
I think it's worth
in case something changes that?
Mhm.
Doesn't
hurt.
further, okay, so we'll wait on that. So I think that we're just going to then see you next month
Understood.
and with a little more information about potential alternatives,
Understood.
okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Richard Phillips seconded that motion.
Richard
I made the motion.
made the motion, Nicole seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron, I've gotten into the habit, I write it all on my little sheet, so at the end, if you ever have this one, I have it. So the next workshop we have is Presser applicants, and this is, on behalf of the applicant proposes interior and exterior renovations, including expanding an existing front porch into a new L-shaped roof porch on a 5.2 acre lot in an RM2 zoning district. The interior renovations would add a bedroom suite within the existing attached garage. In May, the ZBA granted a special permit to increase the size of the house as a non-conforming structure by 23% and an area variance of 30 feet to allow a 45-foot front setback where 75-foot is required. They conditioned this on the house remaining 3 bedrooms, the applicant obtaining site plan approval from us, and no adverse comments from the county. So if the applicant's representative will come forward and say your name and explain.
I'm
Hi.
Dan Quintel, the architect, and this is just an aerial view of where we are. And we are the yellow site. And then first plan mentioned was for a variance by the zoning board. And you can see that it's over the existing house is over the setback line. And so what we're doing is putting a front porch on that continues out from the side of the house. Depending on how you look at it, side of the house. And that would obviously be built into the setback. So here, because we need approval based on going to the zoning board for the non-conforming structure.
For increasing it up to 25%, which requires a special permit and then the site plan review by the planning board.
Did they have a public hearing?
Yes.
They must have had a public hearing. Okay. Did you get any feedback in the public hearing for the zoning board?
Aaron, you have comments on.
Yeah, just a few. We did look at this for the ZBA also. So as far as site plan application in front of the planning board, it does require the ag data statement, which wasn't included in the application. Also, it does require a short EAF just for paperwork completeness purposes. So we would ask for that. We're treating it as a site plan for the planning board's review, so it does need the signature block for the planning board to be on there as well. We included a copy of that in the memo. There's no wetland issues here. It's far enough away from the on-site pond. There's no change in the number of bedrooms. And as you noted, the ZBA conditioned that it stay 3 bedrooms as part of their approval. So it's really just, it's the same proposal that they saw. It's, since the porch is going to be covered, I believe, right? It meets the definition of floor area for the house. So you're resulting in a increase in floor area, and it was about 23% into non-conforming structures that required a special permit from the ZBA for that increase and a variance for the setback. So, and tied to that special permit for increasing the floor area requires the planning board to sign off on a site plan as well. So that's why they're here. We really just have, the only major comments are just noting the referrals that are necessary. This parcel is within 500 feet of Millbrook Village and within 500 feet of a farm operation in ag district. So it does require the referral to the county. Because it's a site plan, it has to go to the county for the variance. I don't think it needed to, but because it's a site plan application, it does require the county referral under GML 339M. And also because it's within that 500 feet of Millbrook, you're required to notify the village when there's a public hearing so that they're aware. 10 days prior to the hearing, they should be notified so that anyone that wants to come out can. For seeker, it's a type 2, just like the ZBA treated it. So I recommended the board classify it as type 2. Yeah, that's pretty much the extent of the comments. We have a couple of referrals to make. You can set a public hearing if you so. And just a reminder that you have to notify the village when you do that.
And it's, do we have the ability to not have a public hearing since they've already had a public hearing on this? Or do you recommend
This has
that we
come
do-
up before. I think we recommend that you just do it because there's been a handful of these over the last few months where they go to the ZBA first, they get their special permit, and it comes back here for a site plan. And we've had 2 hearings for all of those. There's precedent. 2 applications.
Animals, so to speak,
Yeah.
in terms of what the
Site
comment
plan and-
potentially,
yeah.
the public might potentially want to comment on.
Okay.
So-
Correct, yeah.
Are the documents that were missing, have they been submitted, the EAF and the ag statement?
No, they weren't. We sent in the EAF for the zoning board. Yeah, sent it in for the- So we have one already.
Okay.
So just the ag statement needs to be prepared then?
Right.
Any board member comments, questions? So, firstly, can I get a motion to classify it as a type 2?
Motion comes to next type 2.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Then we need to refer it to the county because of location near the village and within 500 feet of the ag district. Can I get a motion to refer it to the county?
Motion to refer to the
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And now we need to authorize the secretary to, first I'll wait, let's do it here first. So assuming that you're going to get those few documents in, are we ready to schedule the public hearing for next month? Okay. Can I get a motion to schedule a public hearing for August 6th?
Motion to,
Go ahead.
to schedule the public hearing for the next meeting in August.
Yeah. And second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So now can I get a motion to authorize the secretary to notify the village that we've scheduled a public hearing for August 6th?
Motion to authorize.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so you're all set for next month. Just make sure you get that paperwork in so we don't have any glitches.
Thank you.
Okay, the next matter on the agenda is a pre-application from Ingrid and George Von Wertz. They're proposing merging 3 parcels they own and then subdividing it into 2 parcels. Pull up a chair.
So I'm Ingrid Von Wertz, and I'm representing my ex-husband, George Von Wertz,
Okay.
because he lives in Munich.
Okay.
We would like to do the following. I own another part of this Edgewood estate, the former Edgewood estate, but live here. And these are the 3 parcels. This is mine, this is George's, and this is mine as well. These 3 parcels, where I live has access to 343 and Altamont Road. But it also has access to Summit Road. All these 3 parcels have Oak Summit Road frontage.
Okay.
So what we're considering is either selling this piece, combining this, giving it to me eventually, or at the beginning, whatever is suggested, and selling it off as either 1 parcel or as 2 parcels. George's and mine combined, or just as 1 parcel. So we would like to know, we'd like a little guidance in if this is just possible and what the next step would be.
I think one of the things we would want to know is whether, when you do it, are you talking about having 2 parcels or 1 parcel? Because it's a different sort of a subdivision to have it done this way, rather than at the end have 1 parcel that you're, so
Okay.
that would be something you would have to work out before you came back.
Yes, and what would that, well, that's what I wanted to know from you. Does that have any implication from your point of view? How much road frontage is required minimum for acreage? This is 17 acres in all. Approximately.
It's 17 acres in all. Is this 10 acre zoning, did we say?
I think it's 200.
Yeah, it's 200 feet.
200 feet, but is this 10
Is
acre
10
zoning then? Or is it 5 acre?
Or 10 or.
Hold on.
I was told today, I called someone here, John, but not John from the zoning department, and I was told it was 2 acres. That's a question I actually had for you.
That's a, we don't really always have that. That's, something you can talk about. You can come in and look at the zoning maps always, or there are ways to look it up online.
All
But
right.
are you trying to look it up for?
Yeah.
So,
I'm just kinda
Um,
curious.
because if it's 10, the reason I asked that question, if it's 10 acre zoning, well, then you really have to keep it together.
Yes.
You wouldn't be able to do it, but I don't know what the zoning is in that location, so maybe.
Well,
we
there's several houses here on little plots. If that
Sometimes
has any-
they're what we call non-conforming, that they were made into little lots before zoning existed.
All right.
And then they established a zoning map on top of that, and it could still be within RR10 zone, even though they're 1 acre. It's just something that pre-exists the laws.
Yes,
So that doesn't really necessarily mean that you could do it.
good.
But-
Obviously, that's an
That's an
important
important
factor.
factor. Exactly.
So how much, you said 200 feet
I
per
believe
acre?
so. 200 feet of frontage on the road. is For
Per
this.
acre.
No, for the lot
For
that you're
For a
creating.
lot Of any size.
And I think it's for a driveway, a be able to
Yeah.
get way to get in and to get out.
And excuse me,
Right.
For
Well-
a driveway,
For a
so that when the
driveway
driveway
access.
comes out, they'd be able to see.
right.
Sometimes if you divide a property into different parcels, then there are properties that don't have access to a road, and that has to be shown when you change the lot lines, that there would still be access to all of the new parcels that.
Okay, that
Are
makes
created.
sense.
So you're gonna go probably to a surveyor.
That's what it's just.
That's my next
And when
question.
you go to
That's
a
your next
surveyor,
step.
He's gonna, draw this up as the 3 lots and show what it will look like as 1 lot. And then he's gonna show us a subdivision off of that, from this lot. And he knows all the rules. That
Exactly.
surveyor will know all the rules on how to frontages, driveways and driveway cuts, all of that.
If you go to a local surveyor, and we're not gonna, the next thing you're gonna say is, who should I go to? We're not gonna refer you to anybody, that really is not something we can do. But if you go to a local surveyor, they know all of these rules and they've done these sorts of
Mhm.
subdivisions many, many times. And they'll be able to guide you in the steps that you need.
Okay.
What's not shown on your aerial is that the lot that's to the north, right, that has frontage on 343. The,
The lot you own.
yes.
for here.
I live here, but own this whole
Right.
lot that goes.
So
to
that
the-
goes, right, so I'm saying if that,
It's a
technically,
different parcel.
you're not landlocking anything technically under your ownership because you have access to them from other
But that
other
was my
ways.
question to you. This automatically loses its road frontage and this one as well.
Right.
So can I just incorporate this into this?
That's one way to do it.
One way
Yep.
to do it.
Who gives me that okay or?
We would do that one.
But the surveyor will do.
The
The survey would propose a lot line
You would
adjustment,
plan it and
several
then
lot
you-
line
and then you
adjustments.
Come back to us and we
Right.
can approve the
So
thing.
what you would want to do then is combine all three, separate this off, and then make this transfer this property line.
I would like
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yes. So tell
and that
me.
way you're not
It's really
landlocking
combining-
anything.
Combining 4, including the one to the north, and then
Um,
subdividing the
That's
one out.
really what you'd be doing.
Are you combining 4?
No,
Well,
I
you,
don't want to do that. I want to make this,
but then if
one.
you leave these separate, you are landlocking them, and that's not.
but this one already has road frontage and
Okay, but then
Altamont
you'd
and
be
343.
landlocking these two.
But can I combine this into one with the deeds, with the access that this one has? I live here.
Yeah, if that has an easement or some other way that gets you to Altamont. Right?
Okay.
So he
And
said,
who can double check my easements? Would that also be the
An
surveyor?
attorney.
and we have our attorney, but you should probably have an attorney as
You
well.
should probably have an attorney look at that.
I got all the deeds
Yeah.
from the developer who subdivided this and I can't make
Complicated
sense
and
of
all.
it.
Yeah,
A
that's-
surveyor, I'm sorry to make you turn around, the town attorney.
Yeah.
So a surveyor will be able to decipher those documents too,
Okay.
and it'll show up on the map that they draw for you, of what it is you want to do. As far as confirming whether they're legally sufficient, a land use attorney, who you can also find locally, there's several good ones. And I will review as town attorney, but the professionals that typically accompany you in an application like this will know how to do. The feedback I think you're looking for is this possible? And I think the answer is pretty clearly, yes, it's essentially a type of subdivision. And the surveyor and the land use attorney will know precisely how to make that application for you. But I would start with the surveyor, as has been suggested,
Yes.
because then you have a picture
Yes.
of what, and you can talk to the surveyor about, no, I don't want to do that, I want to do this.
And also topographically, because this is quite steep.
Yeah, they'll be able to help you make the lines the way you want them to
Okay.
be.
So that's the next step.
Yes.
And then I
And
come
then you'll
back
come
here.
back to us and
All
we'll
right.
do it.
With an application first.
Yeah, there's a full application, but the
Full
surveyor will help you
All
build
right.
all that.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, the next is a pre-application, excuse me?
I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. The next is a pre-application, well, it was actually two of them for Captain Styling and Commander Starscream, which is related to the former Cottonwood property. And on one, they're proposing 32 rooms and a bar and a restaurant, and the other is a eight-room hospitality units, a pool and a tennis court. But this is just pre-application to discuss.
Good evening. How are you all?
How are you?
Good. So for your record, I'm Brandy Nelson. I'm a licensed professional engineer with a company called Ty and Bond. We're based out of Rhinebeck, New York. And here with the owners of the property this evening to discuss the redevelopment of these parcels. I'm sure you're all very familiar with these parcels. I wasn't sure what the presentation opportunities were here in the room, so I went old school and I have a paper handout.
We do have our limitations.
Yeah, no, and we can tailor to whatever works for everybody. And I think I've got 12 copies. So I've got enough for all sorts of thank you here. Do you need one? How are you?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, how are things? Good to see you. Joe, right? Yeah, exactly. Does everybody have one? Yes, thank you, super. So just, we'll get into some details here, but just by way of background, we submitted 2 sketch plan applications for the applications the chair just referenced. And we would like to just provide a little bit of context as to where we are process-wise. Mr. and Mrs. Marsal would like to just give an overview of what their vision is for the property. We very recently, I think probably like you, learned about the hospitality overlay being passed and the details of it. And so we had been moving forward with due diligence on the property to understand the environmental condition of the property and to put together a development scenario for the property. And then when the overlay came out, we were like, we need to take a pause. We need to assess against the new overlay and discuss how we want to move forward. And I will just be perfectly plain. I had talked to Aaron already, and I appreciate you giving me a call about it. But I think we're going to be looking to see how we can meet the intent of the overlay so that we can be most protective of the environmental resources on the property. So I don't know if either of you wanted to do a quick intro of where you're at, but the next slide would be introductions. So.
I'll keep it very quick. I'm Allison Marsal, my husband Mike, and Allie and Mike works. Just a high level kind of reorientation because we purchased the property in the fall of 2020, and then we were not expecting the course of events that ensued to happen, the following year with McGill and a greater conversation on hospitality. So we went ahead and had already in 21 kind of reinvigorated limited scale operation of the motel and began our planning process. We participated in the CPRC and everything. In between, we are full-time residents. Our children go to school at Dutchess Day, and very invested in that process outside of what was going on here. So we were part of that process and kind of advised informally by the town board that maybe it's best that we kind of pause. We were at the time ready to have our application considered. And they said, well, perhaps you pause for a second. Let's see how all of the reports shape out from CPRC and how that ultimately comes into play. So we have continued, as Brandy said, to better understand the composition of our properties, what it really is best suited to withhold, and also to really think through with our experiences as residents and being here most of our lives as to what would really offer true utility to the area with respect to what we need with hospitality. So all of this was happening, and all the while the overlay comes to pass, and to be quite frank, we weren't sure exactly what was going to be the outcome of that process. And so to Brandy's point, we have been doing all of this work and we're very excited about it. We really are ready to engage in deeper conversations, but we want to make sure that we do so in concert with kind of not only the nature of what's come up with the overlay, but also in the spirit of it. We want to protect and honor the land, and we think we can accomplish all these things together, but we also, we don't want to get cute with the language as well. We want to be really above board with what we're trying to put together. So our vision has always been, and it's always been communicated we have a newsletter. Only one has since come to pass. Hopefully there will be more. We've also submitted letters to the CPRC, and we have samples of exactly what that was in here, all stating the intention was always to have 50 rooms, fitness and spa amenities, and some remote workspace, an event space, and a restaurant, a lot of which are very much in line with what the Cottonwood on both sides collectively represented in the 1970s especially. So that's always been the vision, and we really didn't want to dive any deeper into the process before we kind of addressed the elephant in the room, that we had some new considerations and wanted to talk through what we've been working on and get some feedback as to the best way forward.
So if we switch to the next slide, then just as Allison had outlined, timeline was that the property was purchased in 2021, and the motel operations, that's for the 7 Fowler Road parcel. So it is 2 separate tax parcels. The Fowler Road parcel operations were initiated, and then there's been a number of processes and studies here undertaken at the town to get to the point of the hospitality overlay being passed earlier, earlier last month. Forget that it's July. In our packet is the letter that went to the CPRC in September of 21, just introducing what the intentions were for the property. And then on our 4th sheet, there's a overview that gives you the context of both of the parcels. So as I had said, it is 2 tax parcels. The parcel on the right side of the page, which is the east parcel, is the Skylinks parcel. That one is 2647 Route 44. It's a 5.5 acre parcel. I think locally, if I'm not incorrect, it's called the training center parcel, and consists of one single structure that is sort of a continued number of additions over time, starting in the 1790s, if I understand correctly, with the initial building at the corner, and most of the construction improvements being finished in 1990. So what we have there as a footprint is, from what we can tell and looking back through the building records, was wrapped up in the 1990s, early 1990s. Then on the east side of the parcel is the motel property. That's on the west side, that's the Starscream parcel, 7 Fowler Road. In this graphic, what we wanted to show is just the developed footprint. So both of these parcels have been developed and used for many, many years in their current hospitality and mixed use function for well over 50 years. Our architect had taken a look at just what the extent of nonconformity is with those existing buildings. The east parcel is very much in the existing setbacks. So if you're familiar with those buildings, a lot of the structure itself is in the setback that fronts on Fowler Road and also on Route 44. So roughly 57.5% of the parcel's structures are in the setbacks already. And then on the west parcel, the 7 Fowler Road parcel, there's an existing 12,000 square foot, 12,698 square feet of built space, 10,500 of which are the motel building. And roughly a third of that is actually located in the wetland adjacent area. And that was constructed in the 1990s. And so in terms of being in setbacks, about a third of that structure is located within current zoning setbacks, and about a third of it is also located within the wetland adjacent area. So from an existing condition standpoint, there are some challenges with the existing buildings. So we wanted to just introduce you a little bit more to the existing condition of the property. I think people probably zoom by it on 44 and maybe don't pay a lot of attention to it. We've spent the last couple of years looking at it fairly closely. And what we found is that the east parcel, the 2647, the training center parcel, is that better for everybody if I call it training center?
Sure.
The training center parcel is relatively good for development. It has, for the extent of its existence, had some sort of activity on almost all 5.5 acres of it. It was first agricultural many, many years ago, 150 plus years ago. The parcel is relatively level. The parcel is without wetland resources. It does not have any floodplain on it. It has, we've done soil tests out there with the health department. It has good gravelly soils associated with it. So aside from the condition of the existing building, the parcel itself is previously developed and developable, and I think lends itself to some redevelopment potential. So again, it's 5.5 acres. As you all know, there's no sewer or water out that way, so it's well and septic, and has been for many, many years. It does have an entrance off of Route 44. From what I can tell, looking back through the historic record, it probably always has had an entrance off Route 44, and it appears to be the kind of entrance where you would sort of like bear to the right as you're coming down the hill on 44 and go into the property, which is not an ideal modern DOT type style of entrance that we would want on a road with the kind of volume that's seen on 44. And then there's also sort of an informal entrance that goes out onto Fuller Road. Again, not compliant with what we would see in modern standards, is very, very close to the corner and can create some potential traffic conflict with people turning from 44 onto Fowler Road or people coming southbound on Fowler Road to approach 44. So a little bit complicated entrance configuration there. If we flip to the next page, we've included for you a bit of a site tour, just so you can see it here to get a sense of the condition of the buildings. The training center building is in fairly poor shape. It has the original building, as I said, from 1790, and then a series of additions that have been added on in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 90s, as best we can tell. I don't believe it's been occupied for more than 20 years.
I swam in that pool once. It was a long time ago.
You're not helping me
No,
with that
It's
number.
probably been a little less than 20. but
15 to
I think
20
it's
years.
About,
Okay.
probably about 15.
What, having walked through the building and having collected some of these photos, you can see there's a lot of roof damage. And when the roofs get damaged and when the places where one structure is paired up with another structure with an addition, when that space gets damaged, you get a lot of water intrusion. So inside the building, there's a tremendous amount of water damage and also the associated mold that comes with the water damage. And so the first set of photos are exterior photos around the building. The second set of photos are some of the interior photos. So it's inside is in extremely poor condition, with water damage from basement level up to upstairs level. For the 7 Fowler Road property, that one is really interesting. There's a lot going on the property. So in looking at it, we stepped back and we said, you know, there's a lot of environmental resources on the property. And we were looking at these things before the NRI was completed. And so I was actually really happy in reading the hospitality overlay zone. It said, oh, aligned with the NRI. And then we went and flipped through the NRI and we said, oh, this is great. We've done almost everything that is asked for in the NRI as far as looking at the various types of resources that are called out there. And so we can go through that in a little bit of detail if that's helpful for you. But I can just hit upon some of the high things that are shown on the 7 Fowler Road existing conditions drawing. So the property line is outlined in yellow. The red dashed line is the RL5 zoning setbacks. And then the pink lines and the pink shading, we had a wetland delineation completed out on site. That wetland is very near, when you look at the resource mapper, very near to the state wetland SP 68. And so we went ahead and had contacted DEC and had them confirm that they would extend the wetland towards the property and onto the property. So we've had a boundary certified by DEC. So we're showing them the 100-foot adjacent area that would be regulated by DEC. And then in addition to the DEC wetlands, there is a FEMA floodplain that is associated with the unnamed tributary of the east branch of the Wappingers Creek. And that's shown in the blue dashed line. So clearly we would like to put forward a development program that does not have structures in the wetland adjacent area and that doesn't have structures in the FEMA floodplain, because we want to make sure that we're being protective of environmental resources. So as I had said before, there's roughly a third of the building in the resource area. And if we switch to the next page, then just to give you some context, some existing photos of what's built on the property. I mentioned the hotel building being about 10,100 square feet. There's also a barn located at the northeast corner of the 7 Fowler Road property, and then a very small sort of Cape-style single-family home. And as best we can tell, that was constructed in the 1950s. Before the motel was put into place. So those are the 3 structures that exist at 7 Fowler Road. So just real briefly, I wanted to go through some of the other, just related to the NRI review that we did for the property. As I said, we did do an evaluation of the site soils. We did that initially to evaluate the site for feasibility to have new septic systems. It's been very hard to locate the existing septic systems for the building, and so I can't comment as to where they are. We suspect, just based on gravity, that they are downslope, which for the 7 Fowler Road property, that would be towards Route 44. And for the training center building, we think that's to the back of the training center. But we did conduct some specific soil tests, and in all of our soil testing, we found soils that would be suitable, and we did have Ron Miller from the County Health Department out with us looking at those soil tests. We found silty loam with gravel, and we found gravelly loam. We did some preliminary perk tests and found that it perked not too fast and not too slow, so it was right in the area that would be appropriate for septic systems to be constructed to support any redevelopment of the property. Both parcels are served by water supply wells, and we'd anticipate that new wells would probably be drilled because we've not been able to locate any historic information on the existing wells. And having worked with the health department on wells previously, if you can't give them all the specific information, it can get really challenging to get them approved for public water supply. As I mentioned, there's the DEC wetland on the 7 Fowler Road parcel, and that parcel also has frontage on the unnamed trip to the east, Wappingers Creek, and that is a CT classification at that location. We did do some checking initially when we did our assessment of feasibility for redevelopment on biodiversity and habitat, and I do see we have some slightly different information than what's shown in the town's NRI. When we looked at the resource mapper, we didn't see that this was in the zone for any threatened or endangered species or special habitats. I know the NRI says that that is the case, and so we'll have to do a little bit more digging there to understand kind of what the resource issues are there. The owners have engaged with the Carey Institute to talk to them a little bit about some of the specifics, and so maybe we can drill into habitat area a little bit more. But I will point out that much of the land that we are proposing for redevelopment is currently maintained as lawn. It has been mowed for many, many years, even on the 7 Fowler Road side before it was the motel. It was the hayfield for the training facility's original building. So mowing has been occurring there probably continuously for almost 250 years. And then except for the last 10 to 15 years on the training center property, the fields have been mowed or been overflow parking. So it's never been like wetland habitat or even like a wet meadow. Everything is very dry. So we will do whatever additional work we need to do to evaluate for habitat potential. But I would say mostly it's like lawn and overgrown lawn as opposed to meadow grasses. So that's the existing conditions. Does anybody have any questions about?
Not about existing conditions.
Okay. So then in terms of proposed. Do you want me to hold on?
We'll pause for a minute.
Sure.
She forgot her little bag. We'll pause for a second.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Great, thank you. So just in terms of high level, so what our analysis finds is that the training center parcel is less resource constrained and more favorable to support a redevelopment effort, whereas the Fowler Road parcel is more resource constrained, and we'd like to have a lighter touch on it as far as future development. And so the development footprints that we've put forward to you as part of our sketch discussion are they're conceptual in terms of the layout and the footprint, and there's a few things I want to just talk through with you guys. But in terms of why buildings are sited where they are, where buildings are massed together, there's some thought process that's gone into that. So we're showing 40 rooms that would be in a freestanding new construction on the east side of the training center parcel. And then an amenities building that would include all the back of house functions and a restaurant and event space on the west side of that parcel. And then on the Fowler Road side, we would have just 10 rooms on that side. So it'd be a reduction in the area a reduction in the number of rooms from what's currently there with the motel, and then an amenities building that provides a pool and a fitness center and some spa room or training workout room, fitness room for an amenity for guests. And the reason for that is because we want to be a little bit lighter touch on that parcel. We want to be able to stay out of the wetland buffer area, and we potentially want to be able to possibly convey our wastewater associated with the hotel rooms on the 7 Fowler Road parcel over to the east parcel because it's a more favorable location for septic system. So in the proposed sketch plan, what we're showing is 2 new structures, one for hotel rooms, one for restaurant and amenities, and then associated parking. We have not gone to the detail of laying out landscaping and stormwater. We did show we have done the soil testing, so we did show a block for on-site septic. We've looked at well setbacks, so we know we can fit all the various pieces of infrastructure to support the development in that area. We are yet to sort of delve into details like landscaping and things like that, but our intent would be to review what is in the hospitality overlay as far as providing for shade trees in parking areas, providing for heavy landscaping, providing for landscaping that has native planting, some Ty and Bond employees in our team, landscape architects that put together these types of plans, and our engineering staff and myself work very closely in the stormwater design. We, the engineers, work out the geometry and the treatment requirements, and then we tell the landscape architect. So that's generally how we would work going forward. So what we're showing you here is just really kind of a stripped down version showing the building footprints and parking footprints. And we've got that for both the training center and the Fowler Road parcel. And I can talk through the details of that. We have gone through the hospitality overlay and looked at like where we can meet the letter of it and where we can't meet the letter of it. And we just want to talk about, how can we move forward? What do we need to do differently?
I have one main question, which is the way that I read the new overlay district law is that on a parcel, let's say we're talking about the training center parcel, you can get more than the 20 rooms that parcel can allow if you are adaptively reusing something. But it doesn't sound like you're adaptively reusing on that parcel anymore. It sounds like you need to eliminate that building because it's not serviceable. So where do we go with that?
Yeah.
So you're limited to 20 rooms.
I think that's a question we want to suss out, and whether or not we need to have a conversation with the town board. I know the planning board is limited to sort of just moving forward.
I think we have a law.
Yeah.
And it's a law. That's what that is. We have to follow it. We don't have any authority to say, but it's okay because you're doing less on the other parcel. We'll give you a few extra here. We don't have any ability to do that. I think you'll find that the town board is not going to answer that call either after adopting a law that sets specific parameters
Mhm.
for these parcels. I
Mhm.
don't think that that's going to be something you get a break from in some way.
Mhm.
So I think we're constrained to 20 rooms max.
20
Mhm.
rooms plus your facility for restaurants and
And that's a,
that's okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So you have to, this is a very nice plan, by the way. It's very well thought out, but it allows for more rooms than that law allows us to provide, approve.
Mhm.
So, and we don't have the ability to make any trade-offs or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, I mean, that's good to know. I've done development projects for many, many years. We often come and have these kind of workshop meetings to sort of understand where you guys are coming from. This is the first time I've had a law that came out like the month before I
Right,
sat down on the board, so it's very, very new.
What you've done on the other one, with the two-story homes,
Yeah.
is really interesting, because are you considering those as short-term rentals or no? Just
Just hotel rooms.
hotel rooms?
Yeah.
Like for family or.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
this whole thing kind of arose because we live up on 110 Tropic Farm Road up at the top of Tower Hill. And we couldn't put our family anywhere for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's
And,
true. There's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, no,
it's
this
very-
it's
We
very
need,
hard.
with hospitality is needed, yes, but we went through this whole
Yeah,
process.
it's been a tough go. So I was actually, I'm a developer by trade. Just
Actually, both of these plans are really very well
Is it?
done. I consider them well done. There's probably some environmental issues that'll come up, but you really took into consideration the wetlands and all the things in the NRI that would impact these plans, and did a very nice job with that.
But with that being said,
Yeah.
you've reduced the number of rooms by a lot on that parcel. So, and then with 20 rooms on the other, that's some decision for you guys to make and to figure out how you can make this work.
That's helpful feedback. I mean, our intention was to really just understand how to navigate this. So just-
On the adaptive reuse, I can't remember, I read through it so many times before it was approved. What percentage of the previous or the existing structure has to be maintained? Is it just the facade or is it?
All of the rooms that you want to use as hotel rooms have to be within the structure that you're
Within the
adaptively
footprint.
Right.
reusing.
Within the footprint.
Yeah.
And that was the big change that we talked about here.
I'm not aware of what other parcels were considered for the hospitality overlay, but it could not have been the training center building because that building is a million levels. If you've been in it, it's like a labyrinth. It's doors and,
Yeah.
it's,
You would
It
just
is-
be able to take the square footage and build another building there and make it look like the old one for adaptive reuse.
I don't
That's-
think that would be adaptive reuse.
that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
not my
that's not-
understanding either. It's
Not
like,
a,
you
no, they
basically
have
would
to
have-
be reusing the
Yeah.
structure.
And what is
Yeah.
the,
I don't want to get that.
but then where does the safety concern come in? Because, I mean, the wood is rotten.
No, no.
I'm not saying
No,
you have to
I'm not-
reuse
yeah.
that, of
No, I'm
course.
That's,
Yeah.
it's not viable. It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, because we obviously.
Then it can't be adaptively reused, and then
Exactly.
you're stuck with whatever your parcel can
Oh,
hold, which
which
is
is
20.
20 rooms,
That's my reading of the law.
right?
So-
And what other setbacks you have and other environmental issues that you would have, which you seem to have dealt with very well here. So,
Yeah.
So we'll circle back up on the room count, and we understand that amenities could be shared across spaces. So I think we can figure something out there. There were a couple other things in the overlay zone that I had some questions on, just in terms of if you could give us some idea of the rationale behind them.
I'm not sure that, we didn't write that law.
I know,
so
I know,
cannot-
but you're
I don't-
gonna have to interpret it.
We are, but
right?
I'm not sure that any of us are going to on the fly say what the rationale behind a certain
Well,
section of that law is.
Let's
I'm not
maybe
gonna do it.
just talk about it then, just so I can frame it up for further input. The training center parcel has has two entrances, one on 44 and one on Fowler Road. And I would say that entrance on Fowler Road is barely on Fowler Road. we see in the zoning that there is a requirement that entrances be on 44. I don't know if Aaron can speak to this, but I spend a lot of time with the DOT. They are not going to approve an entrance coming down 44 with the speed of traffic and the volume of traffic there when Fowler Road is right there. Like, that's an area I'd like to go back to the town board and see if they will give us any relief on that and have the entrances off of Fowler Road to have all the traffic come out onto Fowler Road, an existing road, and not confuse drivers with three entrances
I don't think
there.
coming down that hill, you could stop in time to cut into that. traffic.
Standing out there the other day, I thought the same thing. It is not safe. And I don't know that we could even get DOT to approve new commercial entrances at those locations. So these are the kind of things
That might be a variance consideration.
Yeah.
do you think this board has
I don't
the,
think this board could do it.
But maybe
Okay.
the zoning
That would be
board
zoning.
could
I
give
see.
you a
Okay.
variance on that because of that issue, but I don't know.
Okay.
That's
Well,
a tricky
and I
one.
would just add that you're going to need a permit from DOT, and if DOT is pushing back on that, that's important for the town to understand. But
right.
With that in hand, coming back to the town and saying, this is not workable, that's more power in you. You know,
Yeah,
if
Especially
DOT
if
will
the
not
DOT
allow.
says this is not the safest option. There's
Yeah.
another option that's safer.
Okay.
That
I'm not sure if
increases
DOT was part of the, referral
Right.
process on the zoning. I don't think they were.
We have not consulted with DOT because we never intended to have entrances on 44. So that's a place where we would need to do a little bit more work.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I do know there was early some discussion about having a larger resort or hotel with entrances on rural residential roads. And that, I think that was some of the push of the
Yeah.
understanding of why that was written into that is to not disrupt residential areas or residential roads. And that the traffic, however much of the increase it would be on a larger, already heavily used road. I think that was where some of the discussion came from. But
That sounds
ultimately,
rational.
I think doing the safest thing is the best thing for the community. And so if that's not the safest thing, the people that are professionals at this could tell us.
And particularly here where you're not bringing the traffic into a residential area, you're just bringing it off the main road and then
Yeah, you're not-
immediately
Yeah,
going
you're not
into
passing,
these.
you're not passing by a driveway.
Exactly,
other than the
exactly.
property.
It makes a lot of sense to do it the way you're talking.
Okay.
That's just my recollection of, as this thing evolved.
Yeah.
I know there was discussion about that.
Right.
It's
Okay.
protecting the community and these residential roads from increased traffic that these hotels might.
Just looking at this, because I have it here. So, I mean, the existing point of getting into the property is right here, roughly?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really close to Fowler Road. So yeah, I think DOT would have concerns about the proximity of the two being there.
Yeah.
So maybe they would it be possible that they would allow something further back? And is that something that you could even
So
do?
the situation is, the hill rises as you
Mhm.
go east, and there is a very steep embankment that goes down to the property. So the property is relatively level, and there must have been some major earthwork that was done some time ago, but there's very steep embankment up. So there's not really a good place anywhere along the 44 frontage for a new entrance that I think would meet DOT's requirements.
It sort of gets blinder as
Yeah.
you push out.
Is the adjacent property the Cornell Cooperative Farm Home Center?
There may be some Cary Institute like cutout in between, but the next building is the courthouse property. I don't know if there's a
At
property.
the top of the hill. Yeah.
That road just goes.
It's a very steep hill, yeah. I mean, as we move along, we'll do a site visit so you guys can see it on the ground, but there are some challenges there. The other thing, I just wanted to understand how you typically interpret corner lots. So we've been having some discussion internally. The training center property has an address that is Route 44, and then the Fowler Road property has an address that's 40, that is Fowler Road. Do you interpret the address as the front yard? Like, which is our front yard? As a corner?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that?
No, I mean, it's not something I can look into it, or you can talk to the building department here and see
Okay,
what they
we
think.
had not talked to the building department about that. So we've sort of conservatively shown 200, we're just assuming both are going to be front yards, and we're showing 200 100-foot setbacks there. But again, the zoning calls for, the new overlay zoning calls for all parking to be in the rear or the side. And because we're a corner, we don't have as much rear and side. We have two fronts. And so, again, we wanted to see if there's potentially a variance for that. The parking now is all something you can see from 44. And so it's not inconsistent with how the site has been operated previously, but that was another.
Wasn't there a parking lot in the back here?
Yeah, there's an overflow parking in the back of the training center. Yeah, exactly.
And that could
But
be
that's where
used
you
as
put-
parking, but because of the
Septic
your
system.
planned septic, or is?
We aren't going to be able to have parking over the septic system, and so we may be able to push some of the parking down Fowler Road.
Mhm.
But again, we were just trying to understand what some of the flexibility is
So
going to be
if
there.
the parking is hardtop or pavement,
Mhm.
then you need to have a retaining pond, so,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, we need to give ourselves some space to manage stormwater, absolutely. The soils are very good for infiltration, so we'll probably be looking at having infiltration practices. Yeah. All right.
I would just say check the code and talk to the building department here
Okay.
about how they're interpreting what's the front yard, what's the rear yard for both of these parcels. And also, we had this general, I guess, if you move forward, when you move forward, you're going to have two separate applications here. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Two separate special permit applications.
Correct.
But the seeker review has to cover the entire thing.
I think
as
it
one
makes
project.
sense with two parcels that have adjacency to one another to do a single seeker review. Yes.
It's the same property owners for both.
It's two different LLCs.
Right.
It's two different tax parcels. It's two separate addresses.
So why isn't this segmentation?
We would not
It
want to
wouldn't be,
segment it.
yeah.
We would do
If
a comprehensive
If the EAF covers,
EAF.
if the review covers the entire project,
And they're doing it at the same time.
yeah.
I don't think
All
the
right, so
ownership
the-
matters.
So the
It's
review is
just
going,
the process.
is going to assess both projects together.
Yes.
It has to
Correct.
assess it as
Yeah.
one
All right.
contiguous project. It's interchangeably, amenities on one side, rooms on the other. It's,
You're not
It's
gonna
one
come
project.
to us with the west side parcel, we'll
No.
do that, and then 6 months later come together, we're gonna do it all
That would be
together.
Correct.
segmentation.
Yeah, no, we'd want to do it comprehensively.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I'm sure, you're already looking into this, but obviously the EAF is going to need to have some pretty extensive narratives and supplemental information, reports, traffic, right?
Yeah.
Stormwater, habitat, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
water and sewage demand, noise, all those things that it touches on. I mean, we don't have an application, so I can't give you, and we don't have numbers, so I can't tell you right now if it's type 1 unlisted. We'll have to look at that, but
I'm going to assume
Short
it's type
versus full.
1. I'm assuming we're going to give you a full EAF with supplemental
That would be good.
materials. I'm assuming we're going to do a coordinated review.
so even if it's not, just for the board's own knowledge here, even if it's not a type 1, but it's sort of close to being a type 1, you could still require the full EAF at your discretion because of certain information that you want to see. For example, information about the water and the aquifer and stuff like that. Like there's certain things that long form covers that the short really doesn't get into. So the full form might be something that you ask for, and it sounds like they're willing to do it. So
Okay.
I would recommend that.
Because of all the
Happen.
resources that are on the
Yeah,
7th Fowler Road. It's like,
correct.
there's a lot going on. over there.
Yep.
So have you looked at the, like, 100-year floodplain?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's shown on that's the blue line on the
Yeah,
7
you
Fowler Road
pointed out
parcel.
before. Just During one of the public hearings before the town board, somebody brought up the fact that in the past, that area where the motel is,
Mhm.
right, and going all the way down 44 towards the police station, was at times underwater.
Okay. Mhm.
So that was concerning to me, if that was, that was concerning to me because I would want to make sure that anything that's constructed here is out of that floodplain.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. We totally agree. We don't want to be anywhere near the floodplain. And I think, we will have to do work in the floodplain, and we'll have to do work in the adjacent area for the wetland because we need to demolish the facilities that are in that space and pull all of that back. So, yeah, there'll be work, but it'll be more towards the restoration side of things than towards the built environment side of things.
Thank you.
Any other questions for anybody? or-
So,
They have no application.
Yeah,
about
we-
it. This
we
is
would have to move
discussion,
forward,
so
yeah,
We'll
so-
have to wait till they come back with an application.
Do you think you'll come back with other ideas on Pacific Tower Road?
I don't know that I can commit to anything yet. We have to get together with the whole design team and discuss that. But I think, our next step would be to take this feedback and then move forward with turning this into a full application for each of the
Or
parcels.
two applications, it
Yep.
sounds like.
Full application for each of the parcels and send it.
Would one of them, I guess, would one be considered adaptive reuse and then the other one not?
I
Is that how
don't
you're-
think so. I don't believe our intent is to reuse the training center building, given the existing condition of
Right.
that building.
But the Fowler Road, it looks like you're within the footprint of what's there, but
Are you adaptively?
We're
You're not-
not
No.
adaptively reusing that.
Okay.
I don't know. if you
Doesn't
want to
sound
talk.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're not looking for extra rooms on that parcel anyway, so it's not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go back and consider,
Tonight.
what you guys said,
Yeah.
I hear you, but the tough part is the economic viability of the project,
I know.
so I think
I know.
we may be,
We
that's
have to
a,
look at it collectively.
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
But if you could.
Understood. That was why I started, my
That's why-
first
that's why
comment was
we're-
about the rooms. We
That's-
don't, I understand that there was always an economic issue with these things, and I don't know if it's viable, but
Mhm.
we are constrained by the law, and that's,
Absolutely.
If you could find some way to do adaptive reuse of the existing Cottonwood Motel, would that give them more opportunities for more rooms?
there would on a parcel that has a lot more challenges though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make
I know.
everything
That's it.
work conforming. We
Your
understand
plan
that.
is good. It's,
Yeah,
I can tell there's so much thought that went into this.
We were erring on the side of trying to make things better, not, I mean, there's certainly opportunity over there. It's just we understand,
I know.
we hear the constraint. We certainly have a lot to consider. I mean, I think that's a tough one. Can't build a project that's not gonna work for us long term. We're not backed by investors. This is a community project by us who lives here, and I don't know if we can take that risk.
Yeah.
But these are good things to know.
On the training center, is the external facade, none of that is viable, it's just, it's
Yeah.
done, it's done.
I was pretty frustrated when she came back and said she'd gone walking through it the other day.
Literally walking through it.
It's pretty tough in there, unfortunately, because it is a beautiful building,
Yeah.
and we've had a lot of that was our when we originally approached the project. There was a lot of people who had sent us old photos and stories and things from their time in the place there. Of course, it was our desire, particularly with our house in town, that would be of the design that we would sort of try to incorporate. So it was our first step. Unfortunately, there's just nothing to say, and it's too far gone. I wish we had gotten to the project 15 years ago, but the water intrusion and the heat cycles have just wrecked the place.
I'm just trying to think of some way to make it make more sense for you.
Yeah.
If there was some way to use that to your benefit, the adaptive reuse of that area. I know the wetlands are very close by and there's the floodplain, and but that may be one potential where you could make this make more sense financially for you.
And I think we'll have to go back and better understand, what the give and take is there.
So in either parcel, you're going to be limited to 20 rooms.
If I could, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to clarify, it's per district. That is one district, the Cottonwood area. So there's 20 rooms that would be available for new construction.
This is not a time for public
No, I'm
comment.
not trying-
That's
I-
fine, but this
just wanna
isn't the
clarify
time.
So people know
Okay.
that then when they walk away, what they're gonna be
Well,
confronted.
It's not 20
That-
rooms.
I'm
per
looking at
district.
section 8, C of the law. It says there shall be only one adaptive reuse in or one in per lot within the HOS district. So, I mean, these are two separate lots, so I don't,
Lots of two separate applications.
Even though I know that my understanding of the, when the zoning was done, there's 3 sites that were considered for this overlay. But this site has 2 lots, so, I mean, that's the language in the law, so it says lots.
So does that allow 40
I-
rooms?
I think there's, again, I don't think it's wise for any of us to speak off the cuff as it's authoritative, but that is certainly something to look into, because it's 2 lots, 2 applications. 2020 potentially, I mean, Brady, you know this, your team will analyze it, the land use attorney on your side should probably analyze it too. But that is something to look into, I think, because then even without the adaptive reuse, potentially there's some more viable. But it needs a careful look.
Yeah, I just have a question about just from the legal perspective with the adaptive reuse. My understanding is that was included in this overlay as a way to motivate anybody who would develop or reuse a property that had already been in a type of hospitality setting previously, or that structure was already existing, so that there'd be less disruption to the environment, would keep the look of the local area. That was to motivate people to do that right thing for the community. And what is the trade-off to the person that's going to do that? Because it's more expensive often to reuse an older structure than to just build a new structure.
The trade-off potentially is additional.
Is additional rooms.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the right forum to address the concerns of maybe what this is going to do within the community, but our goal is to make this Millbrook-esque, and to have it, to be a nice place that somebody to be proud of for the entrance of the town, which is kind of as I look at it. And I think, again, I would reference where we live and the beauty in which we keep our property. And, Allie's usually driving a pickup truck around town in riding gear. So there's, even though we couldn't reuse it, the hope was to really make it fit with the landscape. And there's, even from landscaping all the way to sort of what it is. Obviously the first preference is always to adaptively reuse something. And it is a really cool building with a cool story.
Yeah.
I think we just, as we kind of got further and further into it, we're finding the disrepair of the building is tough.
And interestingly, kind of the corollary to that is even when you go on the state's historic resource website, this building, the training center building, is not listed. It says indeterminate eligibility. We already know the Fowler Motel, the Cottonwood Motel, is not eligible for listing, but when we talk to our archaeological consultant, there's been so much adaptation to the building that a lot of the character is gone. Inside there is zero character from the historic use of the building, right? So you've just got some very limited facade features. And so that was something that was interesting to us as we've been doing our diligence.
That's a question. Go ahead.
I'd just like to clarify, so not to give the impression that we're talking about 20 rooms on each side. But certainly on the training center we were talking about 20 rooms there, but on the other side, it was less than 20 rooms proposed.
Correct.
How many rooms are proposed there? 10.
Yeah.
So it's a total of 30.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify.
Well, actually, we were talking,
originally-
our concept plan is to move that density from the Fowler Road side over to the other. That's the plan that we had put together before we knew the overlay zoning was going to come out. So we've got 40 rooms on the training center side, and we've got 10 rooms on the Fowler Road side, so 50 total. If it's 20 and 20, maybe it's 40 total, but we've got to decide if that makes sense.
Right, I can understand. So we're still in flux.
Yeah, definitely in flux. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned SHPO, so I saw in the CRIS system, I didn't take a deep dive, but I noticed that there's a pending review happening. Is that you?
Yes, that's us. Yeah.
So how far along has that gotten?
We have done phase 1A, phase 1B, and phase 2 archaeological assessment.
Okay, at the request of SHPO?
At the request for archaeologists.
Okay.
What is this?
Yeah, for the cultural resource information system, which is SHPO's online resource for projects that they've been asked to look at. I noticed that there's like an open consultation for this site, so I assume it's the applicant working with them. But for seeker purposes, it's one of the questions that comes up. Is the building historic? Are there archaeological concerns with the site? So it sounds like that's already been underway to look into. My question is more like, did you reach out to SHPO first and they told you to do phase 1A and B, or you just went ahead and did it because of the flags from the EAF mapper?
Customarily, we do a phase 1A, phase 1B kind of reflexively when we're doing development projects, because I have almost never had a development project that didn't need it.
Yep.
So we did that as part of the due diligence.
Okay.
The archaeologists had some findings, so they did a phase 2, which is some more supplemental excavation. Obviously very historic site, so not surprising there. So we've put, because our footprints are all on hold, we put everything related to the archaeologists and the SHPO review on hold pending confirmation of a final layout. Typically what we need to do is we need to communicate to SHPO what our footprint of disturbance is going to be, and that there are no historic reasons in that footprint. And so because the footprint is potentially shifting, we put everything on hold with SHPO at the moment.
But if they get anything in writing that says anything about the existing structures and if they're significant or not?
No, they haven't. No, we've just been working with our archaeologist who works with SHPO on a regular basis.
Okay, yeah, so there's an archaeology department at SHPO, and then there's like more of a architectural historian.
And we've had both
folks.
evaluated by the archaeologists.
Okay, so they haven't really, you haven't gotten a determination about the structures yet?
No determination.
Okay,
Correct.
but that'll be needed for
Correct.
seeker for
We're
this
into-
board. State Historic Preservation Office is the short name, but it's the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, OPRHP. But the technical term is the SHPO, the State
Within
Historic.
OPRHP's great big umbrella is the State Historic Preservation Office.
Sorry, I thought-
And then within that office, we have to clear archaeology and architectural history. So we're working on both of those.
Okay.
Do that, L.
We started a flow chart.
Preliminary, what you've been able to find is that none of the structures on either parcel are listed or.
Currently, when you go to SHPO's website, and they put colored dots on buildings, and the dots indicate the historic status of the structure. So, if you have a historic district here in Millbrook, all the dots will be yellow. But for these parcels, the dots are red, which means not historic, and black, which means undetermined. And so undetermined typically means they're pending additional information. And that's probably because we made the inquiry and we said we were going to do the evaluation.
Yep, that's all standard, how it goes. They submit something to them, they give you comments, they address it, and then ultimately there's a determination by SHPO on if there's adverse effect or no adverse effect. So that's something that this board will need for seeker.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. It's been really helpful.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
That statement is on the website, not a comment on this, but is this posted on the website, the thing that you just presented?
I think it
No.
should be.
It isn't, it hasn't been, but this is our first time receiving it, so we couldn't
Yeah,
have
we just
posted
put
it.
this together to
I
talk
would
with
have
you.
not seen the table. Can the CAC get a copy?
Here you go.
And we should be.
And we will post it.
It'll be uploaded. It'll be
I think
uploaded.
this
It
is
has to
a,
be
this is a
tomorrow.
presentation.
It's a very large file, but I can reduce it and I can share it with the town.
That would be great.
And
Yeah.
a better quality product to post to the website.
Yeah.
But
Then
in
a scan.
transparency,
If
we
you
should
could
be
send
posting
that
everything.
to the email for the planning board secretary, which I believe you have,
Yep.
and just send that, and then we can get it posted on the website
So
tomorrow. That
how
would
would
be
there be an
great.
electronic file on the town
Yeah.
website?
On the web, that's what we're asking.
Yeah, we're gonna
So,
get it
it's on and
posted.
we can look at it.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to compress the photos
Thank
because
you.
otherwise
Yeah.
it'll be ridiculously large and people won't be able to open it. That'll be frustrating. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so does anybody have any other issues, any other matters? Nope. I do. Emails. Does anybody, Nicole, did you do your?
I will get it done tomorrow.
So everybody's gonna have a town email.
Everyone's gonna have a town
Like
email.
1 minute. It took
Yeah.
It's a minute.
I know.
Can I get
Yeah.
that list
I am
eventually?
going to send you a list, and we are going to our business is going to be with those emails. So I'm not going to use any
Yes,
of
that's
their
good.
personal emails, and our new secretary will not be given those, we will only be using those. Okay?
I will do it
So,
tomorrow. It's on my list.
thank you. And Anna said she has an appointment for tomorrow, so then we're done. So can I get a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close the meeting.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So I think our biggest meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but we